Hello, thank you for watching my channel today. My name's Sarah and my channel is called Your True Shelf. It's been a while since I've recorded. It must be like 2 to 3 weeks since I've uploaded a video, so my apologies. It's just been busy. We went to the Speedway in Cardiff at the beginning of September, so I was away for that weekend. If you don't know what Speedway is, it's an awesome type of motorbike racing. I'll put a little video clip so you can see, but it's really, really cool. And if you're into like motorsports, you should look into it because it's not that well known and it's really good. But anyhow, so we were there in the beginning of September, and I met up with my lovely friends Sian from Pastory Time and Heather from Soggy Expat Book Nerd, which was really nice. And yeah, so then I was working last weekend, so we just been busy. So I had a really good reading month in August, but didn't reduce my TBR by much because a lot of them were like library books. So I am getting on top of my library books now, which is good. Because I was at a point where I'd ordered loads and I actually cancelled some reservations and sent back some books without reading them because I wasn't going to get them done in the time frame, and I just thought I'm not going to put loads of pressure on myself. So I'm proud of myself for that. Anyhow, let's crack on with the wrap up because that's what you're here for. So the first book that I read in August, which was a great start to the month, was our book club choice, which was Circe by Madeleine Miller. I've had this on my Kindle for a really long time, so I was glad that it got picked for book club. And this was an absolutely brilliant book for me. It was a little bit of a Marmite book in our book group. Some people really loved it like me, and some people weren't into it at all. And I think it depends whether, one, you like myth retellings, and two, you have read them before, because I know that's something that's grown with time for me. So Circe is the daughter of Helios, who is the god of the sun, and she is different to her siblings. Like they say that she's less attractive. They don't like the sound of her voice. She's a bit of an outcast, and she is able to do magic where she can use plants to turn people into their true self or turn them into other things. And she starts practicing magic. Her family feel really threatened by her, and so she gets banished to this island. She's a woman living on her own on an island. There's lots of men turning up on ships, and she has to protect herself. And she also meets other sort of figures from Greek mythology, so like Daedalus, like Icarus, Odysseus, Hermes. There's lots of other sort of characters who come and meet her, and it's about her tale of survival, about witchcraft, about her forming like relationships and love with other people, but still being on her own on this island. And I thought it was a phenomenal book. For me, it was 5 stars, and I want to go back now and reread Song of Achilles because I didn't gel with that book, and I was one of the only people who didn't. And I think it's because that was my first myth retelling and I just wasn't quite used to them yet. And now this is, I think, my 4th one, and I love them now. So yeah, so I would like to reread Song of Achilles. There's a really, really gorgeous hardback edition, the cloth bound one, and I'd love to have that. But yeah, we'll see. The second book was the polar opposite for me. So this was a buddy read with my friend Jo, and we read The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. This was a book that we read for Women in Translation. And I'd previously read The Memory Police, that's what I'm talking about now. I'd previously read The Housekeeper and the Professor and really enjoyed it. And The Memory Police, I absolutely hated it. And I had, again, it's one I've had on my Kindle for quite a long time. And it's basically about some people who are living in Japan. It's not exactly clear on the time frame, but I think it's pre-mobile phones and computers and stuff. And they are living, it's kind of like a metaphor for a fascist regime, and they are basically, they'll wake up one morning, things feel different, and then they realise that something has disappeared. Like it might be roses, or it might be birds or something. And they haven't, it's really hard to work out whether they've actually disappeared or whether people have been told that they're disappeared and so they're not allowed to remember them anymore. And things, if you if you are not affected by this, like if you can still remember those things, the memory police will take you away. So it's very like, it reminded us of kind of Nazi Germany, with people being sort of taken, and people having to hide other people in their houses, and if you've got caught hiding people, what would happen to you. And so that bit sounds really good, but I didn't like the writing. There's also a book within a book, so our main character is an author, and you keep getting excerpts from her book that she's writing, which we felt was unnecessary and really boring, and we started skim reading those bits in the end. What we found was that we didn't gel with the characters. We didn't form any deep connection with them. We didn't really even get to know them very well. They were very sort of superficial characters in the story. And I want to know my characters, and I want to care about them. And I didn't care about these people. There were kind of technical frustrations that were a bit annoying. Like, we didn't quite understand the system of what was happening. And I just didn't enjoy the writing at all, and so I ended up giving it 1 star. The only reason I finished it, and Joe as well, was because we were buddy reading it together, and we decided we'd get through it because it's a short book. It's not long. If it had been 400 pages, there's no way we would have gone through it. But yeah, so that was my polar opposite. I'm not going to spend any more time talking about it. And that was it. The third book I read was my first book, which was How to Build a Boat by Elaine Feeney. And this was my first choice. I listened to this one on audio. Excuse me. So I really enjoyed this. This is an Irish book. And we have Jamie, who is on the autistic spectrum. He is just starting high school. His mum died straight after giving birth to him, so he's been raised by his dad, and his dad was very young. They were like teenagers when they had him, but his dad's done a great job of raising him. So Jamie lives with his dad. When he gets to school, we also focus on 2 teachers. So there's Tig, who is a teacher who has a difficult past, and he lives it's kind of like he's sort of squatting in a building. He's made it nice, but it's not his building. And he's very much like a lone wolf, but he's very supportive of Jamie, and he decides that he's like a woodwork teacher, and he decides that they're going to build a boat because Jamie wants to build this thing called a perpetual motion machine because he thinks it might be able to help him see his mum again. And the teacher convinces him that a boat could be a perpetual motion machine because it never quite stops moving. And so they're building this boat. That's hence the title. There's another teacher called Tess. Tess is in a toxic marriage. She's going through IVF. She's got all of the emotions that go with the relationship and the marriage and how lonely she feels. And she's Jamie's form tutor. She also has a bond with Jamie. So the 3 of them become this little group, really. Tig, Tess, the 2 teachers, and Jamie. And it's sort of him, how he sees the world as somebody on the autistic spectrum, and the difficulties that he has in school and forming relationships, and how these teachers really help him, but how the teachers end up helping each other as well. And it was a really lovely book. I gave it 4.5 stars at the time. I think I'd probably give it 4 stars now. But I thought it was a really lovely book, quite comforting, and I think people would enjoy it, so I would recommend that one. Book number 4 was another incredible book, and this is When We Were Sisters by Fatimah Asghar. I saw this recommended by Sarah from Freshly Read Books, and it didn't disappoint. So this book is about 3 sisters, and their mum dies. There's a lot of parent death in these books. I don't know why, not on purpose. So their mum dies when she dies of cancer when the girls are really small, and that's not a big focus of the book. There's little bits about that, but not a big focus. The dad is raising the girls, and one day he just gets caught up in some sort of crime scene and he gets shot. So when we start the book, the girls have been orphaned, and we're hearing from the youngest girl's perspective, the youngest sister, and who's Lacour, and she she's about, I think she's like 5 or 6 something, and there's all these aunties who are trying to work out like what's going to happen to these 3 girls, who's going to raise them and everything. And one of their uncle basically says that he'll raise them, so he takes them, and he's like awful. So he basically puts them in this horrible flat. He's not going to live there. He's going to pretend he's living there. He's going to be running his shady businesses, which he keeps like, he's doing all these really dodgy business deals. He's sort of doing some sort of people trafficking and stuff like that. So there's all these random strangers who end up staying in the girl's flat for a little while. He just leaves them to fend for themselves, and the oldest one is 9, and she's trying to, like, Noreen, the oldest girl, is trying to look after her 2 smaller sisters, get them to school, feed them. They don't have enough money and everything, and the uncle is also like really strict, as well as just leaving them to their own devices. And so it's their sort of tale of how they're going to survive. And the youngest sister, Kausar, she's narrating the story, and it's about the girls as they grow up and just sort of discover their identity, how they make their way in the world, and then how they come back together again after they've sort of grown up. And it was a really wonderful book. It's told in vignettes. It's quite an unusual writing style. The uncle's name, every time it writes his name, it has like a black square over it, like they're protecting his identity. I did look, and it's not a true story, but I found that Fatimah Asghar's writing was incredible, and when I looked them up, they have this amazing career of all the writing they've done for like TV and film and stuff like that. They're really talented writers, so I would read more of the stuff they write 100%, and I was really grateful for this recommendation because it was wonderful. Book number 5. So this is one that I read when we were on holiday, and I absolutely adored this book. And this was Yerba Buena by Nina Lacour. It's a book that I was a complete impulse borrow from the library, and it sat on my shelf for ages. And when we went to Cornwall, I thought, I'm going to take my library books with me to kind of, actually read them. And this was such a good book. So this follows 2 women, Sarah, who is being raised, another one whose mum's died again. So she's being sort of raised by her dad, but her dad sort of drinks and gambles and stuff. And she's a teenager. She's got a younger brother, Spencer. He's about like 10 or something when she's about 16. And so she's basically raising Spencer and looking after him. And then she's in a relationship with another girl from school who she really loves. And early on in the book, her girlfriend goes missing and is then found in the river. And Sarah just can't handle it, and she decides she's going to run away. So she ends up with like no money or nothing, just trying to get to LA for some reason, because she leaves her brother. And when she left her brother, I cried because it was so sad, the bit where she left her brother. And oh my God, it like totally got me. And I was just sitting on the beach reading it and crying because it was so sad. So that all happens right at the beginning, so I'm not giving you spoilers. So then we're following Sarah's kind of dangerous journey to LA as a teenager, trying to find work and accommodation and stuff. And then the other person who we're following is Emily. So Emily is from a Creole family, and she is about the same age, well, maybe a tiny bit older. And she is, she keeps doing, actually, I think, well, when we first meet her, I think she's the same age as Sarah, but this book moves forward 3 times. So when we meet her, like, properly, she keeps trying different college degrees. So she'll try a degree, then she'll decide, no, she doesn't really want to do that. So then she'll try another degree. And she keeps sort of, her family are like, come on, just stick at something. Like, why do you keep giving stuff up all the time? And then she gets a job as a florist, and she's good, and she starts doing the flowers for this fancy restaurant called Yerba Buena. And then when she's working at Yerba Buena doing the floral arrangements, we see Sarah again. And Sarah's working at Yerba Buena as a bartender, and she's designing the drinks for them. And she's very sought after in the drinks industry as being like an expert in designing drinks and things. So they meet and they have this like insane connection straight away. And the book basically follows them separately and together. And I felt that we've really got to know the characters here and love them. The thing I really loved about this book, which I really, really love in books generally, there was a lot about taking care of people in terms of like little things you can do to make it more to be loving to someone. So like the food you can prepare for them, like how you prepare their drinks, how you can get them like blankets if they're cold, or like there's a lot about textures, and there's a lot about home decoration and design. And I think I really love those things in books. If anyone else has book recommendations where they talk about like the setting of place in terms of like a property and what the decorations like, what the textures are like, the food and drink people have in that property, if anyone can think of books like that, tell me, because they're things I just love in books. I find them just so comforting. And this, I just found their stories just so incredible, and I didn't want this book to end. It was one where I was like dawdling at the end because I just didn't want to stop being with Sarah and Emily. I really like, I can't recommend this enough. And I went to like look, and that's her first adult novel. She's written other YA novels. I did ask the library to order one, but they said they couldn't get it from their supplier, so I might have to have a look online at buying some more of her books. But I loved this book so much. Then I went a bit out of piste and I listened to a crime book on audio. I got this one from, I think it was Libby or I think it was Borrow Box actually that I got this one from. It's one that I'd heard Jen Campbell talk about, and I don't usually read crime or thrillers because they're just not really my thing. And I enjoyed this book, but I think it also confirmed that it's not really my thing. So this is The Curfew by T M Logan. So this book intrigued me by the bit that Jen told us. So basically we've got a young boy called Connor who is 16. He's just finished his GCSEs and he's going out for a party with his friends, and his curfew is to come back by, I think it's like midnight. And his dad wakes up in the night and thinks, I didn't hear him come home, and the porch light's still on and it's like 2 a.m. So he's kind of panicking and he thinks, I better just go into his room and check that he's there. And then he goes in, he sees he's in bed and he thinks, okay, that's fine, I can relax, I'll go back to sleep. He obviously just forgot to turn the porch light off. And then in the morning, he realises that the boy who was in the bed asleep wasn't his son, it's someone else. And then it sort of starts with, like, where is his son, what's going on, and basically expands from there. So the premise really sort of drew me in, but it was good and it was compulsive to listen to, but I just don't get that into crime books. Like, I kind of think, yeah, I really want to know what's going to happen, but I don't really, if someone said to me like, oh, that book's got to go back to the library now, I'd have fully been like, okay, never mind, I'll just Google what happened at the end. It's not really ever one that's going to be like stay in my heart kind of thing. So yeah, it was fine. 3.5 stars, but it wasn't like best book of the year territory. And then the last one that I had was free on Audible. I've been listening to like a sci-fi series by April Daniels. So this is the second book in the series, but the general premise is that there is a trans girl who's called Dany, and Dany has had a very difficult upbringing because her dad just would not accept that she was trans and was basically just bullied her and beat her and was horrible. And one day at the beginning of the first book, she is out, and there is basically, so superheroes exist in this book, and there is somebody crashes out of the sky and lands next to her. And it's this superhero called Dreadnought. He's like this really big deal superhero. Dreadnought's dying, and he pulls the whatever they have in their chest out of and gives it to Dany. Dany is still in a male body at this point, and when Dany gets the thing here that superheroes have, whatever it's called, she then gets the body that fits with her identity, so she becomes like outwardly appearing female, and she then has to navigate life as Dreadnought, and so she meets all these other superheroes. There were like good guys and bad guys, and she's the first openly transgender superhero. I think there was one like quite a lot before her who went a bit under the radar, but it's basically covering the issues of being transgender, being a teenager, fighting like the bad in the world. And this was sort of the second out of a trilogy. The third book hasn't been written yet. April Daniels is a trans author as well, so it's like an own voices story. And it's like, if you obviously, there's probably going to be people watching this who aren't into like superhero stuff at all, and it wasn't a book that I would usually necessarily read, but I found the series enjoyable, and it was nice to get up to date with the series as well. So that was quite a long wrap up, but that was all of the books that I've read. So my favourite book of the month, I would say, was Yerba, Buena, closely followed by Circe and When We Were Sisters. So yeah, a really good month. But Circe and The Memory Police were the only ones that I had on my TBR. So yeah, my TBR only went down by 2. Anyhow, 2 is better than none. So that was, all the books that I read in August. Let me know your thoughts, if you've read any, if you want to read anything you think that I would like to read based on what I've told you so far. And hopefully I'll be back doing more regular videos now. But I hope you've had a really lovely week, and I will speak to you soon. Bye!